There was a time that I believed if I just tried hard enough, I could make things stay. The rhythm of a relationship, the shape of my body, the way the world reacted to my effort. As if enough precision could prevent disappointment. As if presence could be earned through performance. But trying to hold it all together is what made it fall apart. Control is a fantasy I once called love. A cruel kind. The kind that bargains with time and begs for guarantees. But the truth came softly. In the ache after a high wore off. In the silence after a goodbye I didn't choose. In the quiet mornings where nothing I did felt like enough to bring her back. Or to bring myself back from wherever I'd gone. This is not a story of how I got better. It's not a sermon or a checklist or a step-by-step to arriving. It's a record of release, of letting the river carry what I kept trying to freeze in place, of looking my vices in the eye, not as enemies, but as mirrors, of feeling heartbreak not as punishment, but as purification, of choosing discipline not as self-hate, but as self-devotion. You don't begin the becoming by winning. You begin it by dying. Dying to the belief that you are ever in charge of the fire. You are not the flame's master. You are its messenger. And the message begins with the breath you didn't plan. I used to measure my worth by how well I could anticipate collapse. If I could predict the failure, maybe I could soften the blow. Maybe I could save the story before it ended. Maybe I could avoid the silence, the absence, the mirror. But presence doesn't grow in the garden of certainty. It sprouts in the cracks, where the plans fall through, where the person you thought would stay doesn't, where the image you curated shatters under the weight of who you actually are. I didn't know that letting go could feel like being burned alive. Not all at once, but slow, like grief that won't announce itself, only settles into your limbs. Like cravings in the dark for something that used to numb you. Like watching your habits ask for a hug in the form of self-sabotage. At first I called it healing. Then I realized healing isn't always a gentle word. Sometimes healing is violent. It rips the lie from your throat before you're ready to stop speaking it. It shoves your hands open after you've clutched what doesn't serve you so long your fingers forget how to release. Vice was never just a poison. It was an embrace too. The bottle, the bowl, the distraction, the body I knew wouldn't stay. They all held me when I didn't know how to hold myself. And still, I had to outgrow them. Not with shame, but with honesty. I had to see that the high was never the problem. It was the hunger underneath it. The emptiness I feared would swallow me if I stayed still long enough to feel it. And I did stay still, eventually. Not because I wanted to, but because the chaos exhausted me. Because chasing control cost too much. Because pretending to be okay started to hurt more than actually not being okay. That was the beginning. Not of healing, but of honesty. The fantasy didn't die all at once. It bled out slowly, drip by drip, through every vice I clung to when the world didn't give me what I wanted. Weed, alcohol, caffeine, the sweet rush of being needed, the thrill of the unspoken, the ache of someone almost loving me back. All of them numbed the same absence. But even absence is presence if you stop running from it. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." At first, I thought my why had to be grand, like building a legacy or being seen, or being enough for someone who couldn't hold me. But those were just masks for control. They crumbled when tested. My real why wasn't a destination. It was a decision. To become someone I could sit with in silence. To become someone I didn't have to escape from. To bear the how of heartbreak, of detox, of early mornings with no dopamine. Because there was something truer waiting underneath. I began to starve the noise. Waking up early, sober, alone, not as punishment, but as reclamation. To lift weights, not for the mirror, but for the ritual. To write even when I hated the sound of my own voice. To love without needing to be loved back. To give without watching the door to see if they'd return. Nietzsche wrote of the three metamorphoses: the camel, the lion, the child. I lived them in reverse. I was the child first, naive enough to think love alone could save us, that sincerity could disarm trauma. Then I became the lion, roaring back at the world for wounding me, defiant, disciplined, burning through illusion. Only now I have learned to carry, like the camel, not just burdens, but truths. To carry my solitude, my longing, my hunger, to carry them without shame. There is no finish line to this. There is only the breath in the now. There is only becoming. And I am not who I was, but I still remember him, curled up under soft sheets of denial, whispering prayers to a future that would never arrive. He needed the lie. I needed it too. But I need truth more. Even when it costs me comfort, or connection, or the illusion of being misunderstood. The truth is, discipline saved me in ways love never could. Not the kind of discipline you post about. Not streaks or stats or punishing routines. But the quiet kind, the invisible kind. The kind that says, you're tired, but go anyway. You're tempted, but breathe instead. You feel unloved, so love yourself as if no one is coming to do it for you. And most days, no one did. No calls, no rescue, no perfect mirror of my worth. But I woke up anyway. I drank water. I stretched. I walked until my legs remembered what forward meant. I cooked for myself like I was worth the effort. I prayed to my mother in the silence between songs. Not for answers, but for presence. Grief sharpened me, not into something hard, but into something aware. It cut through the fog. I stopped romanticizing the ones who couldn't stay. Stopped chasing softness from people who only knew how to hurt gently. You can only blame others for so long before the ache starts sounding like your own voice. And when it did, I listened. I let myself miss them. I let myself scream into a towel. I let the withdrawals come. I let the urges pass like weather. And then, for the first time in a long time, I was still. No fantasies, no escape routes, just me, breathing. Not healed, not whole, but here. Here is sacred. And from here I began to create again. Not from hunger, not from needing to prove I was still worth loving, but from stillness, from listening, from the quiet rhythm of breath and repetition. At first, the ideas didn't rush back in. They came slow, cautious, like deer in a clearing. I had to earn their trust again, not by chasing them, but by becoming the kind of space they could return to. I learned to sit with the loop, to hum over it, to chop samples until I disappeared in them, to write lines not to be heard, but to be known by myself again. And it felt like pulling threads from something older than me, like remembering rather than inventing. This wasn't content, it was communion. And with each verse, each mix, each breath between the beat, I was saying, I am still here. Not because I kept the world together, but because I let it fall apart and stayed. Creative clarity didn't come from force. It came from surrender. From saying no to every false yes I used to give away too easily. From watching who left when I stopped trying to be palatable. From seeing what stayed. And what stayed was this: my hands, my voice, my ears, my eye, my body, even tired, even flawed, my breath. The same tools I was born with, the ones I thought I had to earn back, but they were never gone, just buried beneath distraction, wrapped in layers of noise. Now I write not to impress, but to witness. Now I move not to escape, but to return. Now I create not to be chosen, but to remember that I am, that I always was, even in the relapse, even in the heartbreak, even in the silence where I thought no one could see me. I was still becoming. There is no resolution to this story, no bow-tied wisdom or perfected ending, only this breath, and then the next. I used to think that if I became disciplined enough, detached enough, enlightened enough, that the ache would disappear, that healing would no longer mean I missed what I lost, or who I thought I was supposed to become. But healing didn't silence the longing, it just gave me somewhere to put it, gave me the strength to let it burn through me without trying to bottle the flame or call it love. There are still days I wake up and want to crawl back into the old comforts, want to text the person I once made a home out of, want to melt back into distraction or dopamine or validation dressed up as intimacy. But the difference now is that I see it. I see the wave coming, and I no longer mistake it for who I am. I breathe, I pause, I wait, I write instead. I train, I eat, I pray. I stretch my hands out to the morning like someone returning to a place they once abandoned. Discipline taught me that devotion doesn't always feel good, that clarity often comes dressed as emptiness, that the absence I once ran from is the very space in which I am most alive. I used to perform presence. Now I live in it, or at least I return to it as often as I can. Not perfectly, not always gracefully, but earnestly. Sometimes I still grieve the people who left when I stopped being convenient. Sometimes I still replay the what-ifs in the middle of the night. But I no longer think I need to fix any of it to move forward. The forward movement is the letting go. It is the deep trust that what belongs will remain, and what does not will teach me something before it leaves. Love for me has changed shape. It's no longer a feeling I wait for, or a person I beg to stay. It's a practice, a choice, a way I speak to myself, a way I hold space for others without collapsing into them. Love now is found in the act of showing up, on the page, in the gym, at the table, in the mirror. Love is found in the boundaries I once feared would make me unlovable. Love is breath, repeated, returned to, constantly forgiven. And still, I miss her. Sometimes I miss all of them. The ones who sparked a fire in me before I knew how to tend it myself. But now I light my own flame. I sit beside it. I let it warm me without asking it to make me whole. And I write. I create. I build. Not to be seen, but because this is what I do. This is who I am when the noise fades. I do not have the answers. I do not claim to be finished, but I am present. And in presence, I am free. Free from the illusion that I need to be in control. Free from the belief that I need to be perfect to be at peace. Free from the cycles I once mistook for purpose. What I have now is a kind of sacred simplicity. A quiet knowing that whatever comes, I will meet it as I am, whole in my becoming. This breath is not a conclusion. It is a beginning. It is now. Thanks for watching. Seriously. If you made it this far, I appreciate you taking the time to sit with this. I'm trying something new with this kind of content, mixing my own reflection, philosophy, storytelling. So if it resonated, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think, what parts stuck with you, or what you want to see next. This is my first time putting something like this out in video form. So if you're into it, feel free to like, share, or subscribe. Whatever helps us reach someone else who might need it. More to come soon. Stay present.